Hello, everyone. This is um, a story about Lamar Johnson, who is 50 years of age. He's been in prison nearly 3 decades, and he actually has just been able to walk free yesterday on Valentine's Day after serving nearly 3 decades behind bars. Now, the judge vacated his sentence. He served nearly 28 years of a life sentence for killing that he always said he didn't commit. So he maintained his innocence. And so a Missouri judge on Tuesday overturned the conviction of a man who has served nearly 28 years of a life sentence for killing that he has always said he didn't commit. Lamar Johnson, 50, closed his eyes, as you can see here in the photo, and shook his head slightly as a member of his legal team patted him on the back when Circuit Judge David Mason issued his ruling. And you can see where his one of the members of his legal team is a female, white female, and she's patting him on the back. In coming to his decision, Mason explained that there had to be reliable evidence of actual innocence, evidence so reliable that it actually passes the standard of clear and convincing. Johnson walked free after he was processed out at the courthouse. Beaming, he walked up to reporters in the courthouse lobby about 2 hours after the ruling and thanked everyone who worked on his case as well as the judge. "This is unbelievable, unbelievable," said Johnson, who didn't take any questions. St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner, who filed a motion in August seeking Johnson's relief after an investigation her office conducted with help from the Innocent Project convinced her he was telling the truth, applauded the ruling. Mr. Lamar Johnson, thank you. You're free, she said before the gathered press. Gardner said this is a time for Johnson to spend with his attorneys and family. This is Valentine's Day, and this is historical, she said. The Republican-led state attorney general's office fought to keep Johnson locked up. A spokeswoman for the office, Madeline Siren, said in an email that the office would take no further action in the case. She again defended the office's push to keep Johnson behind bars. Now, I want to stop right there, because when they have no evidence and when they convict, and especially black men, and we see this over and over and over, where black men are being released from prison after decades of serving sentences behind bars, where their sentences are vacated. Their life have been changed. Their families' lives, their children, if they had children, lives are changed. Communities are changed because of judicial inappropriateness, judicial, mishaps, and judicial, just bad acting and withholding evidence and not accepting that they could be wrong and have been wrong when it comes to finding someone to prosecute. And I say finding someone because they want to satisfy maybe the families, maybe the public, and maybe politicians. Maybe there's money riding on it, re-election to office. Who knows? There's many different reasons why black men are being convicted of crimes they didn't commit, and then their sentences vacated decades later after their lives have been turned upside down, topsy-turvy, and destroyed. And not just the inmate, the accused, the defendant, but also their families and communities. And people remain broken in these families decades later because of the false convictions and the false conviction rates that black men suffer at the hands of an American, so-called American judicial system. And I said that I would bring you stories as I receive them of these wrongful convictions that are now being vacated or overturned. And you have these attorney generals that want to still stand by these wrongful convictions and not admit when they're wrong, and they want to stand by their lies even after it's shown the evidence pointed in a different direction, or that the evidence did not link the person they convicted to the crime. And it's so more or less devastating, lack of a better word, to keep seeing this. And I want to give a shout out to the Innocent Project if you are a contributor to that, because it's so important, because you find a lot of these convictions that are being overturned or vacated. The Innocent Project is the one that's working, that take these cases and get them overturned or vacated, because there are people taking the time to do the work. They have compassion and more than likely a calling to stay in the game to help these help people that have been wrongfully convicted. And so giving to the Innocent Project is important. And shout out to Spitting Fire, because she works hard and diligently to continue to donate to the Innocent Project. And so thank you so much, Spitting Fire, for that, because it works. It works. It works. And it's so appreciative. You know, so appreciative. So appreciative. And if you have been one of the donors, even if you haven't been able to do it all the time, but you have been one of the donors, such as myself, thank you. Thank you so much. It means a lot. It means a lot, because they are the ones that usually are the ones working to get these convictions overturned, these false convictions. And the false conviction rate is high, especially among black men. And so this Madeline Siren, you pushed to keep this man, Mr. Johnson, behind bars for a crime he didn't commit. And it's so sad. And because I have ties to Missouri, I'm going to push that they don't re-vote her back in office, because she doesn't deserve to be there. And that's what I was saying earlier about when I was speaking on the Black National Anthem, not of Katie, whatever her name is. None of those people deserve to be in office when you can clearly see that they're not running for office to be fair and just for the people, by the people, for humanity, for all people. That you can see it. And we shouldn't vote for any of those people. And I say it over and over again, and I will continue to say it. We shall not be voting for any of those people. We got to level up our voting. That's going to work for us. That's going to help us. Because a lot of people that vote, they vote for people that are not helping us. They vote for people that have not made a significant impact or change. It gets worse and worse and worse. And when we vote, we got to vote for the good, of all people, but we need to vote to make sure that the good of the vote is helping Black people get ahead the right way. And when you see laws that are constantly being passed against Black people, you got to vet those candidates who are doing it and never vote for them again. Get them out of office. And the only way to do it is to vet these candidates, go back and look at their track record. Are they fair? Are they just? Have they shown you that they're willing to work for all kind in the right way? Have they violated any laws? Have they put people behind bars that don't deserve to be there? And have they put people behind bars and overcharged them? Because we're not saying that if a person done something wrong and they clearly did it, that they shouldn't be held accountable. But are they being overcharged? You've got to look at all of that. I mean, look at Kimberly Fox. Now look at this Madeline Searing, State Attorney General's office. You got to look at these people. And it's not just those two. There's other ones. There's other ones. And then there was Attorney General Andrew Bailey, where Madeline is saying that he was sworn in and was committed to enforcing the laws as written. So are there some laws that we need to look into on the books? Because I know one state, I believe a year ago, they had the laws changed when they looked it up and realized this is against Black people and it's unfair and it's unjust. So if there's laws written on your books, then you need to go back and rewrite some laws, right? Do the right thing. Do the right thing. So getting back to this, as he stated when he was sworn in, as she was saying, our office defended the rule of law and worked to uphold the original verdict that a jury of Johnson peers deemed to be appropriate based on the facts presented at trial. And let's stop right there. The facts that were presented were probably not all the facts. They probably withheld evidence, as I stated earlier in this video. They probably withheld evidence, just like in another case that God is exposing, a big case, withholding evidence. They withheld evidence about one of the accusers seeking restitution in 2019, years before the trial. They withheld evidence. That person wasn't truthful on the stand. There was so much evidence withheld. And now they want to have more time regarding the restitution. Why? So they can lie, so they can make up stuff, so they can manipulate paperwork. Man, it's bad. It's bad. It's real bad. But we serve a mighty God that will continue to expose these crooked prosecutors, that will expose information that's been withheld, is being exposed. God will use people to work on these people's behalf that have been wrongly convicted. And God continues to use people such as the Innocent Project. He's using Jennifer Bonjean. And he's using other people to expose what's been going on. And some folks have exposed themselves, like Tasha K. And some of the other players and parents, they've exposed themselves. Over time, they will expose themselves. And there's other names. You know who they are. And in this case, they were exposed too. It took time, though. Almost 28 years. But they was exposed. 50 years old. He still can live his life. he is not going to pass away behind bars. But does it make it any easier of what he's already suffered in his family? But praise God that he used people to help this man get out. Now, Johnson's attorneys blasted the state attorney general office after the hearing, saying it never stopped claiming Lamar was guilty and was comfortable to have him languish and die in prison. Man, there's some evil, wicked, and corrupt people that work for our judicial system, work in the judicial system. Yet when the state's highest law enforcement office could hide from a courtroom no more. See, I told you God will expose folks when they couldn't hide no more. It presented nothing to challenge the overwhelming body of evidence that the circuit attorney and Lamar Johnson had amassed, they said in a statement. See, God will expose people. They couldn't hide anymore from the lies and the deceit and the false imprisonment and the wrongful conviction of Lamar Johnson. Now, Johnson plans to reconnect with his family and enjoy experiences he was denied for most of his adult life while locked up, his lawyer said. Johnson, taking a beautiful walk, going to the park, playing basketball, fellowshipping with your family, communion, eating with them, laughing with them. And when I say laughing with them, good things. We want to see you smile again. Maybe even getting a job if you have to. Doing things that you were denied. And maybe even working to help other wrongful conviction prisoners. Whatever it may be. My prayers go up to you and your family. Now, while today brings joy, nothing, and this is true, nothing can restore all that the state stole from him. Nothing will give him back the nearly 3 decades he lost while separated from his daughters and family. He has children. He's got to reunite with his daughters. Get to know them all over again, where they're at in life now. And sometimes people never look at you the same. And some people will still believe that you were still guilty. Because some people believe in this judicial system and they think that the judicial system and the officers of the court that took an oath cannot do no wrong. But we see it time after time after time that there are some corrupt officials in the judicial system. Nobody is perfect, and God has showed us that because he made us a little lower. And he knows that we have imperfections. But when you do wrong deliberately and intentionally and bring unjust cause against your brother or sister, there will be consequences to the people, the parties that played in it. And people don't realize that. They think that if they just ask for forgiveness and that's it, they good. But they don't realize that God holds people accountable. There's consequences even when God forgives you. See, it was God's idea to be fair and just. That was God's idea. Man's idea, and I'm not saying every man, but when I speak man's idea, it's to lie, withhold evidence, false convictions, false charges, trumped up charges. That's man's idea. But God's ideal is to be fair and just, even in a judicial system. But man's idea is to turn it away from what is fair, what is just, what is righteous, and to continually to convict black men at a higher rate or overcharge them That's man's idea. And now we see where they're using our own to do it. We see it a lot. And it's sad. It's beyond sad, actually. It's beyond sad. But I thank God that he still uses people to expose people in their wrongdoing. He exposes it. It may take time. It took nearly 28 years for Mr. Lamar Johnson. But what about the other ones I've named? Victor Simmons, Maurice Hastings, and there's so many others that sentences have been overturned or vacated because they were truly innocent. This can't keep happening. That's why we got to vote. We got to speak up. We got to use our voices. Donate to the cause is going to help, because this is wrong on every level. And they knew that the evidence was available at the trial that proved his innocence. It was available, but they kept it hidden and more likely ignored it because they didn't see no value in the lives of Mr. Lamar Johnson or the two young black men from the south side of Missouri, South St. Louis. They didn't see any value. And that's important, that we as black people have to see value in ourselves. We have to see value in ourselves, standards, and set boundaries. Because we see over and over, time and time again, that there are some people out here in the judicial system that, and even in law enforcement, that don't see value in us as black people. And I'm speaking some truth. I'm not going to be ashamed to speak the truth. So we got to value ourselves. We have to value ourselves. We got to speak some truth, man. The evidence that proved his innocence was available at trial, but it was kept hidden or ignored by those who saw no value in the lives of two young black men from the South Side. Johnson was convicted of murder for the October 1994 killing of Marcus Boyd, who was shot to death on his front porch by two masked men. Police and prosecutors blamed the killing on a dispute over drug money. Johnson maintained his innocence from the outset, saying he was with his girlfriend kilometers away when the crime occurred. While Johnson was convicted and sentenced to life, a second suspect, Phil Campbell, pleaded guilty to a reduced charge in exchange for a 7-year prison term. Johnson testified at a December hearing that he was with his girlfriend on the night of the crime, except for a few minutes when he stepped outside the home of a friend to sell drugs on a corner several blocks from where the victim was killed. Johnson's girlfriend at the time, Erica Barrow testified that she was with Johnson that entire night except for about 5 minutes span when he left to make the drug sale. She said the distance between the friend's home and Boyd's home would have made it impossible for Johnson to get there and back in 5 minutes. The case for Johnson's release was centered around a key witness who recanted his testimony and a prison inmate who says it was he, not Johnson, who joined Campbell in the killing. Now, see, this is what I'm talking about. Now, when I stated that if someone has done a crime, right? Now, he admits to selling drugs. And you know, that happens a lot in these communities. And we're not saying that's okay. We're not justifying that. We're not saying that's right. I'm not saying that. But this man was wrongfully still convicted. And if he was caught selling the drugs, he would have gotten probably a lesser time, right? If he was caught. But it wasn't about the drugs, right? It was about them putting him in a place that he was not and saying he committed murder, which is totally more severe charge than a drug charge if they had caught him selling, making a deal, and convicted him on that, right? But they didn't mention that. He admitted it. His girlfriend said it. And they still convicted him because they withheld evidence that they had available at the trial at the time. So James Howard, 46, is serving a life sentence for murder and several other crimes that happened 3 years after Boyd was killed. He testified at the hearing that he and Campbell decided to rob Boyd, who owed one of their friends money from the sale of drugs. He also said Johnson wasn't there. Howard testified that he shot Boyd in the back of the head and neck and that Campbell shot Boyd in the side. Howard and Campbell years ago signed affidavits admitting to the crime and claiming Johnson was not involved. Campbell has since died. Now, James Gregory Elking testified in December that he was on the front porch with Boyd trying to buy crack cocaine when the two gunmen wearing black ski masks came around the house and began the attack. Elking, who later spent several years in prison for bank robbery, initially told police he couldn't identify the gunman. He agreed to view a lineup anyway. Elkin testified that when he was unable to name anyone from the lineup as a shooter, Detective Joseph Nickerson told him, "I know you know who it is," and urged him to help get these guys off the street. He says he felt bullied and pressured. Elkin named Johnson as one of the shooters. Gardner's office said Elkin was also paid at least $4,000 after agreeing to testify. Isn't that bribery? Bribery. Where is Detective Joseph Nickerson now? He should be charged. And they're not going to bring, they're not, but he should be charged. Detective Joseph Nickerson, if he's still living, he should be charged for bribery and for lying and for bullying and pressuring someone to lie and just pick anybody. That even when he said, "I can't identify anyone." This is what goes on in our judicial system, and people don't think that the judicial system makes mistakes. And he went on to say, "It's been haunting me," he said, of his role in sending Johnson to prison. Yeah, sleepless nights. It will haunt you. It's going to come back to haunt you. I wonder how these people sleep at night. Nickerson denied coercing Elkinson. He testified in December that Elkin's identification of Johnson was based on all that he could see of the shooter's face, his eyes. Johnson has one eye that looks different than the other, Nickerson said. You can clearly see it. But Nickerson is a liar. I believe that this officer is a liar, just like a lot of the other officers that lie. You should never lie to put somebody else behind bars, lying to get a conviction. Dwight Warren, who prosecuted Johnson in 1995, said that beyond Elkin's testimony, the main evidence against Johnson was an overheard jail cell conversation. A jailhouse informant, William Mock, told investigators at the time that he heard Campbell and Johnson talking when one of them said, "We should have shot that white boy," apparently referring to Elkin. Warren acknowledged that convicting Johnson would have been iffy without Mock's testimony. In March 2021, the Missouri Supreme Court denied Johnson's request for a new trial after then Attorney General Eric Smith's office argued successfully that Gardner lacked the authority to seek one so many years after the case was adjudicated. The case led to the passage of a state law that makes it easier for prosecutors to get new hearings in cases where there is fresh evidence of a wrongful conviction. That law freed another longtime inmate, Kevin Strickland. If you all remember Kevin Strickland, last year, he had served more than 40 years for a Kansas City triple killing. This is why we have to continue to speak out and do the things that I've mentioned, if you're able to and willing to, because, like I said, vetting candidates, giving to the Innocent Project, making sure you vote for the right people and speaking out and doing things that is going to help us, reaching out to our, congressmen, congresswomen, whoever's in your state, doing a lot of things the right way, in decent and in order, and getting laws passed, because this is not right to keep reading about wrongful convictions and their people have lost their lives and they can't get their lives back over years of spending decades incarcerated, in prison for crimes they did not commit. And we're not saying that people shouldn't be held accountable, but holding people accountable for crimes they didn't commit and destroying lives. And this man, he's now walked free on Valentine's Day, and now he has to get to re-know his daughters wherever they are. He has to meet them where they are, and it might be difficult, and it may not. We don't know. But again, I'm praying for this family, Mr. Lamar Johnson, and your family, your reunion with them, and getting on with your life, and whatever restitution that you can get, seeking restitution and whatever you can get, the maximum, or more, whatever it takes, that you can get your life back on track. So with that being said, you all leave your respectful comments below. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for being subscribers to my channel. And also, please thumbs up the video, share the video, share. Thank you all. You all have a beautiful, beautiful day.